question is to the Parliamentary Secretary for Industrial Relations. Parliamentary Secretary, noting your answer yesterday in relation to the RTBU's industrial action that, quote, there will be a resolution to the dispute, the workers will get an outcome and the public will be happy to have their transport restored in due course, and that yesterday RTBU Secretary Toby Warnes said the union would continue to disrupt commuters every weekend until Christmas, until a better wage offer was put to them. When do you anticipate this outbreak of public happiness is likely to occur?
The Honourable Mark Buttigieg.
Well, I thank the honourable member for his question, and I would answer like this: I do not have a crystal ball, but what I do know is this: that under this government, as I said yesterday, under this government, industrial disputation lost hours is 154 times less in the last 18 months than it was under their reign for the last 18 months. That's a fact. That's a fact. And it is simply because we have an approach to industrial relations where we respect workers' rights to negotiate and withdraw their labour in accordance with a legal framework which allows people to take protected action via their unions. And I don't know how many times you want to come in here and ask the same question. I will repeat it ad nauseum. We respect that system. If you don't respect that system, you should come in here and offer an alternative. Because under the previous government, you had a wage cap...
Point of order's been taken. The Honourable Chris Wright.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Parliamentary Secretary actually answered my question in, I think, the first 5 seconds, and then has proceeded to talk about the previous government's approach. And I would ask you to draw him back to my very specific question about when the anticipated public outburst of happiness is likely to occur.
Thank you. The Leader of the Government on the point of order.
One of the most ridiculous points of order that we've heard from those opposite the whole year. The member even said during this his point of order that the Parliamentary Secretary was being directly relative to the results, and has answered the question. So you don't then get to don't then get to basically whinge about the way in which the Parliamentary Secretary chooses to answer it. He has to be directly relevant. He's being directly relevant, and there's no point of order from those opposite.
Well, to the point of order. To the point of order.
Just because the Parliamentary Secretary answers the question in the first 5 seconds does not give him liberty to say whatever he likes in relation to any other issue which he sees fit to be able to pontificate on for the rest of the period that he has. You know, you could be asked a question about whether the sky is blue, and he can answer and say yes, it is, and then seek to engage in some sort of discussion about the state of Sam Tedeschi's dress. And I have to say, at that point, it would be completely out of order to answer a question in that manner.
To the point of order, the Treasurer.
The Leader of the Opposition is the first time I've ever heard a Leader of the Opposition complain about a government member answering a question. And the second point is, as for the second part, what the Leader of the Opposition said is just nonsense, because the honourable member wasn't talking about Sam's excellent suit. What he was so long as the information is directly relevant to the question that's been answered, then not only is it a direct answer, it's an extensive answer that is directly relevant, which is what the member was providing.
All right. So the answer is this: that the honourable member was indeed being directly relevant for the first part of his answer. However, the Leader of the Opposition is quite right to say just because he was directly relevant in the first part of his question doesn't mean that he then has licence to say whatever else he would like to say on any issue for the rest of the question. So that is quite true. The question now is the Treasurer right to say that the second part of his answer was in fact relevant to the question? The answer to that question is no. So the Parliamentary Secretary will come back to the question that was actually asked.
Thank you, President. I could spend the rest of the 1 minute 45 seconds saying ad nauseum, I don't have a crystal ball, but I don't think I want to bore the House with that. What I was pointing out is that there are two approaches to industrial relations. It's a direct implication from the question. You can have an adversarial approach where you attack unions and attack workers, and the rail network gets shut down indefinitely like it did under them. Or you can have a situation where you allow a restored Industrial Relations Commission to broker a clearinghouse arrangement where eventually, via the cut and thrust of industrial action, parties come together and have a negotiated outcome. And that's what will happen. When will it happen? I'm not 100% sure, but I'm confident that like all the other disputes we've resolved in short time, it will be resolved. And I simply make the point that if you want to compare industrial relations approaches, it's stark, it's a big contrast. A wage cap of for 10 years for 2.5%, an adversarial system versus a system which has seen public sector workers get the best rises in a generation, a promise that we were directly elected on. I will rate our record against yours any day of the week, and if you want to come here and keep asking questions, I look forward to the February session.
A supplementary question, but before I allow it, can I remind the Parliamentary Secretary to speak through the chair at all times? The Honourable Chris Rath.
Thank you, Mr. President. As a supplementary question, could the Parliamentary Secretary please elucidate whether he agrees with the Minister for Transport's approach to begging the RTBU to withdrawing their protected industrial action, and what action has he taken to support the Minister in this request?
The Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, the Minister responsible has made her position clear, and of course I agree with it. Of course I asked the RTBU to come to the table and have a negotiated outcome. That's what we want. We don't want the public being unnecessarily disrupted, but the law says that people have a right to take protected industrial action and use that as leverage in their negotiation. That's what's happening. We respect the law, and we respect the Industrial Relations Commission's ability to broker an outcome. And that's exactly what's playing out. It will play out. We will have a resolution, and both sides of the debate will eventually have an outcome. Now, the implication is that we shouldn't be doing this. We should be saying no, we don't agree with people's right to withdraw their labour. We don't agree with unions going through the Industrial Relations Commission as is their right. But that's not our position. That's their position. And again, yes, I think that the RTBU should come to the table, and they have been having discussions with the government and the Minister. And again, it's a very, very simple, straightforward process of people exercising their leverage to come to an outcome. And in terms of what I've done, I let the Minister take the lead on that. It's her portfolio, and I support her. But I also, let's make it clear, I support the right of unions to exercise their right under the law. If you don't support it, you should come in here and tell this side of the House what you would do if you were in government. Would you dismantle
Order!
the Industrial
I've
Relations
advised the
Commission?
Parliamentary Secretary to speak through the chair.
Through you, Chair.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair. I ask you, if you're in government, will you come in here and dismantle this system, which is working much, much better than it was under your reign?
The Honourable Mark Buttigieg is called to order for the first time. Saying through you, Chair, and then saying you is not upholding my ruling. A second supplementary question, the Honourable Tanya Mihaly.
Thank you, Mr. President. Does the Parliamentary Secretary agree with Toby Wands's view that it was easier to deal with Elliott than Halen, given that Elliott always had his door open, unlike Halen?
Yes, a point of order, the Treasurer.
That one's clearly a request for...
Quite right. I uphold the point of order. The Honourable